Hello and welcome to this episode of the AF Mentors podcast. Sorry, sometimes it does like a countdown when we're on Riverside, but that didn't. It just started. So
here we are.
here we are. Yeah. Jules, how are you?
I am wonderful. It's been a great Monday. But I like Mondays. I like January.
I like Monday, I like Tuesday, I like Wednesday, I like Thursday, I like Friday. Any day that you ask Jules how she is, she's like, fucking fabulous.
But I used to be the opposite of that, be the most like everything was wrong. And I'm like, I made the choice to not like deliberately not be like that anymore.
What happened?
It was actually a friend of mine. So I used to on a Sunday night be like, ugh, Sunday again. This is awful. And a friend of mine kind of made a passing comment like, oh, at the Sunday night morning again. And I was like, did I do this all the time? And she was like, every week. And I was like, oh. And also probably the people I surround myself with now are kind of glass half empty, everything's figure outable type people.
You mean glass is half full?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
I don't even care how much is in the glass anymore, that I don't know whether it's half full or half empty.
Exactly. Jules doesn't care. She's going to fill it up anyway.
Yeah, do what I like with my glass. So yeah,
It'd be empty. I'm just going to fill it right up. Yeah, I love that. I actually didn't used to be a very positive person either, and I can't think of like the exact clicking point. But I was just—I don't know. Something just like in me was just like, life is too short just to look at all the negatives. And do you know what? I don't think it was such a clicking point, but looking back, it's like, wow, that's such a change. And there must have been something. I don't remember like exactly what clicked, but I think it was figuring out that honestly, like disputing the belief that most of us hold, whether we're conscious of it or not, that the way that you are in terms of how positive you are is just like a personality trait you can't change. It's like, you were born a positive person or you weren't. And actually, the most positive people I know, one of whom is you, and not the annoying toxic positivity, but like, okay, cool, let's look for the positives, the genuine positives that are actually there. And you're not like ignoring all the shit things. It's like, yeah, okay, those things are shit, but like, what can we focus on that's going to be positive? What can we do in this situation? How can we find the silver lining? Because there's a silver lining to everything, even the shit things. And I think when you train your brain to start looking that way, initially it takes quite a lot of time and effort. And then after a while, you're just like, oh, this is just my preset, is like when someone gives me bad news or when something goes wrong, I'm like, cool, how do we fix it? Instead of thinking, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world.
I think you're still allowed to think, even when you're a positive person, you're still allowed to think things are rubbish. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of it. You don't always need to think everything's okay, but it's this is rubbish. So what are you going to do about it? Like, you can sit here and it'll be rubbish still, or you can try and change it and it'll be less rubbish. Or it'll be different rubbish at least.
Yeah, and even if it's just that like you feel like shit at the moment, it's like you could sit here and wallow in it and you'll still feel like shit, maybe even more like shit when you wake up in the morning. Or you could be like, do you know what? None of me wants to go to the gym. None of me wants to cook a healthy meal. But I will feel just slightly better if I do, And I'll feel slightly better in the morning if I do. And it's not going to fix everything, but doing the opposite of that, which would be like opening a big glass of wine and just sitting and wallowing in your own self-pity, it's like, that's definitely going to make you feel worse. So that, like, that's your choice.
I actually seen, it was Claire that said this, ESG Claire, and she said, you can do absolutely anything you want. You just have to deal with the consequences of it. Mm-hmm. I was like, yes. So yeah, don't go to the gym.
Like, I think that's the point, and own them. It's like, if you want to overeat. If you want to like not post on Instagram and hope that people just magically find your business, like, go for it. But you also have to own the consequence of like, you didn't put in the work, so you can't expect the outcome.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's where most pain comes from, is like not owning the outcome of your actions. And hey, do you know what? We all get it wrong sometimes. Like, I'm certainly not perfect. I get stuff wrong. But owning the outcome and then being like, do you know what? I did make a mistake there. How am I going to make sure that you can't undo the past, right? There's no point living with a huge amount of regret. It's like, okay, what do I do differently next time? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's that. It's just like, it's up to you and how you react to it. And like, you can't, this is the thing, like you say, people are like, oh, I just hate Instagram. Right, well, don't post on it. Don't make content. You could market loads of other ways. They're really a lot harder and a lot more expensive though. But if you don't want to make content for Instagram, that's fine.
It's the same if your clients are like, I really don't want to track calories. It's like, okay, cool. We can do it another way. But for a lot of people, that might be harder depending on the situation that they're in. But like tracking calories for most people is at least a good place to start to improve that awareness of the food that they're eating, and you don't have to do that. But if you still want the outcome, you're going to have to do something else. And it might actually be harder. Yeah, okay, that wasn't what we were going to talk about. But the other thing that I wanted to touch on today is that I absolutely nailed my early bird offer for Commit to Six. Like,
Yay!
nailed it. And I will do a post on this and kind of break down what I did. But I would say the fundamental thing, because there's some like technical things that I did, right? But by far the most important fundamental thing is I have spoken about it so much more. Why? Because I've added something new to it, because I'm really excited about it. Like, I am genuinely so excited about it. That comes across. That's why people are signing up. So we hit 50 signups. I sent the email out at 8 a.m. We hit 50 by 1:30 p.m.
Wow.
That's the quickest we've ever had any signups. It is the end of November, right before payday. It's Black Friday this weekend. We're about to go into December. People don't want to start something in, this time of year, or that's what people think. Like, it is probably the worst time to launch, and yet that is our best early bird launch yet. Like, I don't know what the final numbers will be yet, but given what else I have planned in this launch period, I'd find it hard to believe that we wouldn't hit at least 100. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
But what I love about that is you've listed all of the things that technically on paper, a lot of people would be like, I'll just not bother with this one because it's just before payday, it's November, it's really dark, people are fed up, it's Christmas, it's Black Friday. There was hundreds of reasons not to do it, and it's turned out to be one of the best of the year. It just shows how much you are actually in control of these things. You've put in a huge amount of effort, created a huge amount of FOMO, been super excited about it, and it's actually bucked what should be the trend.
Mm-hmm. And I will also just add, like, personally, not been overly excited about work. Like, it shows that you can still show up, like, when you're not feeling your absolute best. And I'm not saying like push through to like burn out or whatever, but like realistically, life will happen outside of your business and you still need to show up. And that's one of the hardest things, but it's really important to be able to do that. And if you reframe it as like, this isn't another stress, it's like, this is something that I can control. This is something that I do love. This is something that I can put like my realistically heartbreak energy into to find like the positive in that, right? So yeah.
But that goes back to what we said earlier. So you were in the situation you were in, you had two options of how to react to it, and you've chosen to pour it into work and be like, do you know what? I'm going to do the absolute best I can here.
Mm-hmm.
You could have gone another way and be like, do you know what? I'm just going to give this a miss because technically of all the reasons that this shouldn't have been a successful launch. And you could have been like, do you know what? I'll wait till January, like a lot of people would have done. But you were like, no, I'm going to take action. And here's all the reasons it will work. And,
And
get
it's
it
so
so
easy
far.
to be like, I could just sit and wallow for the rest of the year and just be like, oh, do you know what? I'm just gonna. But I would feel so much worse. Also, I had a one-to-one sign up today. I don't take on a lot of like one-to-one fitness clients, but I took this woman on, and she's pretty cool. And I was like, oh, tell me a little bit about work, just so I understand like your constraints around work and stuff. She was like, I've got quite a stressful job. And she was telling me about it. She was like, look, at 30, I ended up divorced. I never thought that at 30 years old I'd be divorced. Like, I was freaking out. And then I just thought, what are all the positives of this? She was like, in some ways I was set free. Like, I've got freedom now. I can do whatever I want with my time. And what I did was I channeled that into my career. So now I'm in a position where like, okay, work is quite stressful, but like she's doing really well. And she's like, I'm so glad that I made that choice then. And I think like, yeah, if anyone is in a shit situation, whether it is a breakup or whether it is, like there's always stuff. I actually know that there's two people on AFM that are going through quite similar things. One of them to like much bigger extent, when there's like kids and family and house involved, like there's a lot going on. But again, she's like, I'm going to channel this into something productive, because anyone who's been through something like that knows you just have this like unbelievable amount of energy that can't really be used for anything. Like, well, I think it's called anxiety, right? I'm going to name it energy. It's like, that's anxiety. And I'm like, no, it's energy, right? But you have this like elevated heart rate. You're not going to sleep that well anyway, right? You kind of got this like nervous / anxious energy. I'm like, put it into something positive, right? And I'm not saying like run away from all your feelings and just focus on work. Like, I've done a lot of crying as well, okay? But there has to be a time where you're like, right, but there's going to be some positives put in here, and this is what I'm going to focus my time and effort on.
But that again shows that whole the mindset that you've created, that you've taken these feelings and you're like, wow, I'm like buzzing with energy here. And people are like, that's like a state of like emergency and you're actually feeling really anxious. And you're like, no, look how much energy I've got, I can't sit still.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's like the cortisol, adrenaline, flight or fight response. I'm like, no, no, that's extra. Okay, the other thing before, so we've got a bit of a Q&A to go through, but the other thing I want to discuss before that is Black Friday. So before I give my opinion, what are your thoughts on it?
I think if you're going to do it, like really do it, a lot of people I've spoken to have been like, yeah, I'm going to do a Black Friday offer. It will just be, and they kind of fade into it. And I'm like, I don't really know what you're offering. And they're like, oh, neither do I. And I'm like, you've got to be really sure of what it is, and you've got to be excited about it and proud of it. And don't just do it because everyone else is doing it and you kind of half-heartedly put something together. In that case, just don't do it. But
I can't agree more.
one or the other.
Yeah, almost with anything that you're doing business-wise, don't fucking half-ass it, because you know what's interesting? Half-ass results don't get half the results. They get fuck all results because you're not actually excited about it. And then what happens, and this is normally what people do, they're a bit nervous about doing something. They don't really know kind of what Jules is saying. They've not got their head around what they are actually offering, or they're not really excited about it and they feel like should be doing something, so they don't want to miss out on something. So they quickly like pull something together and they do something. And then they get no results from it. And they're also, this happens as well when you're launching anything. If you're like, oh, I'm not really sure, so I'm just going to do a bit of a soft launch for it just in case it doesn't work. And you know what? It won't work because you've done a soft launch. The soft launch should have been, let me test out if people actually are interested in this product. Let me test out if the feedback on this is good. Like exactly what I did with the mindset course I'm writing for Commit to Six. I was like, right, who's my target audience? I'm lucky as hell, right? I already have them within my coaching program. I'm like, guys, do you want this? What would you want in it? This is a list of things I want to cover. What other things would you want covered? Okay, cool. They're literally helping me make the course. They're my target audience because they're my clients already, And this is something that acts as both marketing to get new people in, but also retention, because this is the time of year that people start looking at things and they're like, been doing that thing for ages and it's good, but it's just the same as it always is. So maybe I'll just cut that back now. It's like, no, you need to add something new and exciting for people. And then back to the Black Friday thing, like I agree, like if you're going to do it, know exactly what it is. The other thing I'm seeing come up quite a lot with coaches not really understanding what they're offering is, I think I'm going to do an offer now where you can pay now and you'll start in January, but what I'll offer them is like, I'll coach them a bit throughout December. And you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, I think I'll put them on the app. And it's like, no, because what's going to happen is the most exciting part for a client is like fresh, new, excited, fresh start. And now you're going to dull that in. So by the time they get to January, they're not excited about starting tall anymore. They're probably half disinterested. You've given them some half-assed coaching throughout December, and now they're not going to be excited. They're not going to get results. I would be, you sign them up now, cool. You start here, or you know exactly what they're getting through December. Okay, all you're getting is this accountability challenge, or all you're getting is these workouts to do, or what you're getting is, I don't know, whatever it is, it needs to be exactly what Jules is saying, specific. You need to understand what you're actually offering them. And it's wild to me that so many people don't really understand what they're selling. And when you go, so what do they actually get? It's like, oh, I thought I'd probably give them a bit of like the no. If you're not clear on it and you're not excited about it, ain't nobody buying that shit.
And that's the actual onboarding process then seems kind of half an effort. And actually, the better someone's onboarding process is, the longer they tend to stay in your coaching. So it's a wee bit like you've let people into the waiting room for the whole of December and they've just to sit there with their coat on, waiting.
I love Jules's analogies. What, you're going to invite someone into your house and not offer them a cup of tea?
But that right, so that's exactly it. So see a Black Friday offer that you're like, oh, I'll just put you on the app and then we'll actually start in January. It's just you've basically said invited them in. You've not offered them a cup of tea and you've told them to wait in the porch and just been like, I'll come back and see you. And they can see you in the house walking about and you're not inviting them in.
Yeah, yeah. The reason that I generally, and I'm not saying never do a Black Friday offer, but like my sway would be towards not doing it. And the reason for that is that originally it was all about like selling off old shit, right? Like old stock that isn't going to be used that year. Your coaching is not old stuff, right? It's like, oh, this is last year's stuff before we get in like new stuff to sell at Christmas. So you don't want like that kind of connotation with it. I also think that it's very different to discount physical things. When you start to discount your coaching service, then people start to devalue your coaching and your coaching service, right? When actually at any point in the year, that should be the same. So even if you've done something like anchor your price higher, so say you're like, obviously everyone understands you wouldn't say, we wouldn't randomly be like, oh, you can sign up to AFM for half the price. Then all our current AFM members would be like, what the fuck? Can we get the Black Friday deal for half the price? Like, why would we be paying more? Like, it's like literally the opposite of rewarding loyalty. So we definitely wouldn't want to do that. But what you could do is anchor the price higher and then get people in lower, or say it's going up in 2025, so you need to get in now. I still just think that with a product like coaching or mentoring, where generally people struggle to articulate the value and see the value. Like, I think if you're a coach who's like, I often feel like I'm not able to articulate the value of coaching very well. And now you're willy-nilly changing your coaching prices. Like, of course, people don't see the value in it if you can suddenly cut off chunks of money, right? Now you might be like, oh, well, I was only going to give, I don't know, a £20 discount or something. Okay, cool. But you are up against people giving 50% discounts, people doing ridiculous deals. You're up against, like, you think about someone logs into Amazon on Black Friday, everything's like 70% off, like the most ridiculous deals you've got going on. That's the other thing you need to think about. There is so much competition, not necessarily within the fitness industry, not necessarily different coaches, but like generally for people's time and attention that day. Your inbox is going to be bombarded with everybody's Black Friday deals. It's possibly one of the worst times to do a Black Friday deal, or to do a deal, or to sell anything, because it's like everyone is trying to sell to people on that day. Why do you want to be in with all that noise? Like, I'm not doing it. Instead of it, I'm going to do the best Black Friday deal you could possibly get, which is something for free, right? So that's the day I'm launching my workshop. So they're going to get an email saying, best Black Friday deal, this is absolutely free, and this is what you're going to get from the workshop. Now, remember that when you're trying to ask someone to come to your free workshop, you are still selling them something, right? You need to sell them, like, basically to give you their time and attention, which in my opinion is like just as valuable as money, right? Like, if not more so in certain contexts. So you really need to sell to them. This is another thing that people get wrong when they're doing free things. It's like, everyone should want it because I'm doing it for free. No, 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 they shouldn't, right? Like, time and attention is so valuable. I am so buzzing with the amount of people that come to my workshops and give me a whole hour. Like, and I can see the number of people that are watching for a whole hour. I'm like, that is gold. People's time and attention and their brain and their concentration, and then the people that watch it afterwards as well. Like, you would never get that on Instagram. That's the whole point in doing it. So anyway, that's what I'll be offering. And it might also be a good time to think about doing, like, if you wanted to do something like a free trial, or I don't know, if you're doing some kind of like accountability thing in December or something, like that might be a good time to think about launching that.
I just always think with Black Friday deals, because it's based on price, and especially for the likes of one-to-one coaching, that all year you're telling people it's an investment. Do you want people buying it because you're the cheapest that day? Are they going to get the best results? Are they really truly bought into the process? Or are they just buying because you're the cheapest? It's not the best outcome for anyone.
And then when you get people in that have only come because it's discounted,
Mhm.
they're the least loyal people because they're going to look for some other discount. What you want is people to be like, I've always wanted to do commit to six. So that's why I'm doing it. Not, oh, I saw that commit to six had £50 off. So I just thought, yeah, why not? Because whenever someone else has £50 off, they're going to fuck off and go there. Because that's the kind of people, they're looking for a deal. They're not looking for specifically you and your coaching. So you are kind of attracting the wrong people. I actually listened to a salon owner talking about that the other day, and she was talking about how if you do like Groupon deals and stuff, you often get like quite fickle clients who normally, if they're like, I mean, like me, right? Like in terms of getting my hair done or something, like I don't have a consistent hairdresser that I go to, right? It'll just be like when I absolutely need to, and I will just go on and be like, where's somewhere near me that's got like some kind of deal on or something? Cool. But there's no point that I'm not their ideal client, you know? And like for sure they're going to get some of my money, but then I'm not going to come back there. It's very unlikely. I mean, maybe, but only if I so happen to still be around the area, which given I only get my haircut once a year and I normally move at least once a year, like it's probably not going to happen, right? So, and the point being, you don't want loads of me. So why are you putting all your stuff on Groupon and stuff? You know, like you actually want people who are the consistent clients. So they're the ones you want to reward. So when you're attracting those people, it's like, hey, then you should be doing like referral discounts for them or retention discounts or like just extra things to keep them there and engaged. Like, you know, it's their birthday, buy them a coffee, whatever. Those kind of things, those are the clients you want to do that for, not the person that came in once.
And some businesses do like that. Like, so some businesses will thrive off that Groupon type model because they just need the numbers through the door. And
They're always going to have to discount.
yeah, and like it just depends. Coaching 100% is not one of those type of businesses that you compete on being the lowest. It's not a race to the bottom when it comes to price with coaching. And customer loyalty and brand loyalty is massive in coaching. And that's the opposite of what Groupon and discounted rates and competitions and all that create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for something like coaching. Because you think if imagine someone found commit to six on Groupon half price, and they were like, "What the hell? I paid full price for this." You know, you'd be pissed off, right? And actually, this exact thing happened to me. I bought some extra aligners last week, and then I just saw their fucking Black Friday deal, and I'm like, ah, I mean, that was just stupid of me to buy something before Black Friday, but it does kind of like annoy you, read like the loyalty piece on that. You're like, damn it, just because I didn't. Anyway, I'm sure I'll get over it.
Look at all the money you saved on hairdressers, you're fine.
Yes, and not drinking.
Look, yeah.
Do you drink?
Not really, maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Nah, not often. I don't go to the hairdressers
Actually,
either.
yeah, but it blows. I mean, you can tell we both don't go to the hairdresser. We were both like, oh, let's just redo our hair, just
Yeah,
to
this is
be videoing it. Yeah,
it done. Like,
this is it. Yeah, this is this is actually the better version.
I actually washed mine today. This is my good hair day today. Bad,
Oh,
bad
mine has not
times.
been washed in like a good 4 or 5 days. It's not a good time. Although it still smells very nice. Oh, it's dry shampoo. That's what it is. Yeah.
Your shirt looks all right.
Thank you. What was I going to say about that?
About saving money on not drinking.
Yeah, I just think it's, I mean, especially London, like, I'm just like, oh my God, you can't do anything. You can buy a meal for the price of most drinks. You like, it's like, I don't know, you just buy like two drinks and it's like 15 plus pounds. Even if one of them's like, I think I bought the other day like some kind of beer. Obviously, I wasn't buying it for myself. And then like a Diet Coke, £15.
I think it's more expensive in Scotland now as well. I think there's like a minimum price on it. that it
Oh,
makes
you've just
even
cut.
what was quite a fairly cheap bottle of, like, I don't know, vodka or whatever, really, really expensive.
Oh, wait, you're going to need to say that again.
Oh, I was saying, I think in Scotland now it's even more expensive than in England for alcohol because they've put in like a minimum pricing. I think even like a bottle of vodka is like, I don't know, 20, 25 quid maybe, which is expensive.
Wow.
Yeah, there's something about
Yeah.
minimum. Obviously, Ross tells me about it, and it's not something I buy, so Ross is
What?
familiar
And
with it.
so they don't have that in England?
Don't think so.
Huh,
I think it's one of those
interesting.
um, devolved laws that, yeah, the minimum price is quite high on
Hmm.
alcohol. Obviously, to try and stop people from drinking, but good luck.
Yeah, I know. Good luck. Right, okay, you ready for the questions?
Yes. Okay. Right. Question on FOMO, which has been a big part of the accelerator. Just a thought, another question after watching the FOMO video, which everyone has raved about on the accelerator. The one to one coaching I do doesn't necessarily have a name. I just use my own. Not sure how to roll that out as I'm not really changing anything other than what I'm calling it. Also, no idea what to name it.
Yeah, I don't think you actually need to name everything. And this is a good example because with one-to-one coaching, um, you might not necessarily want to name it, but you might name certain aspects, right? And one thing I would say is get really good at articulating what it is that you do. So the way that one-to-one coaching works is we have our initial consultation. You tell me about your goals, about your life, about your dieting history, about anything that you've struggled with. And the difference here compared to other diets you've done and working with me is that I'm going to mold the diet around you and your life and your goals and your constraints instead of you trying to mold uh, your life around the diet, right? Like this is the fundamental difference. Then what happens is I go away, I write your plan. Like you basically want to talk them through it because people are like, oh, like we kind of think that people know what online coaching is. Like, no, you need to talk them through it. The whole point in having a process and potentially, if you wanted to, naming the process isn't necessarily to name it. It's so that you get better at articulating it, so that you talk through it. Now, you don't have to name it in order to do it. I don't have like an actual name for my one-to-one coaching, but I do have certain principles which I name, right? 3-to-1 method, 30 range targets, right? They've all got like reasons behind them and rationale. So I'm like, oh, if someone's struggling with the scales, this is what I do with them. I take the scales away, 30 days, put your head down and you focus on ticking these boxes. I'm going to set them for you based on you, your goals, your constraints, what you need to do in order to reach that goal. Then we stop getting confused about the scales. Then we stop letting that impact our motivation and our actions each day. And after 30 days, then we weigh again. This really works because it keeps you focused and it stops you giving up. Blah, 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 blah. You need to like talk about these things and explain these things. They tend to be a lot better when you name them, but your whole coaching doesn't necessarily have to have a name. It's more about like the principles that you're using. It also creates a bit of intrigue, right? Oh, what's 30 HD? What does that mean? Well, it's 30 days, head down, no scales. You're just focusing on ticking the boxes. This is how it works. It's more of a concept within my coaching or a tool that I might use at certain times. But you really need to get good at articulating why coaching, why online coaching, what is it? What's different about working with you? What about all the other things that I've tried that haven't worked? That's the main thing that you're coming up against. Like, I've dieted before and it didn't work for me. So why should I try again? And a lot of your content needs to be basically explaining that in different ways.
I also think people can go a wee bit far with the naming things. Like, I've started working with some new coaches and I've gone onto their website and I'm like, what? I don't know what all these things are. And I do it before I actually have a first call with them so that I don't have any prior knowledge. And if I can't make sense of your website and what all of these different things are called, how would someone else? So I think people can take that a wee step too far and come up with names that don't make sense. And then people are like, I don't even know what this is. So, like you always say, confused people don't buy.
And you'll notice that my website isn't a whole list of like 3-to-1, 30 HD. range targets, whatever. It's like, this is the fundamentals of what coaching is. Now I use those things more as like hooks to get into conversations or resources that I can give people, because people are more likely to reciprocate when you've given them value already. Do you know what I hate about Riverside? Everything. Oh, why is it always paused? Why, it's meant to be so much better.
See, when
And
they
yet,
added Riverside, I stopped using. Well, no, I didn't stop using Spotify for podcasters, but I stopped adding the jingle and all that at the start, and I just drop it in now. I don't find Riverside user friendly.
it's not at all. Do you know what's annoying is there are certain aspects that are really good, and like right now you look like a fuzzy ball to me, but when it uploads from your side, it's like such good quality. But it's annoying because it's hard to have a conversation with someone when it's like, I'm like, does she know that I've stopped talking? Probably not.
It's not the. I don't think it's the best tech wise.
No. But it's really good for like editing post as well. I do all my reels on this now.
Oh, do
So I
you?
do all my reels, and then there's an option on it that's like cut down, so there's less than like a 1 second pause. So then any pauses that I've made just get cut out. And I normally make at least do the vast majority of the editing for probably like 5 or 6 reels in honestly like 10-15 minutes. It's
And you'll be able to do that.
mega quick.
You'll be able to do that easier because it's so good using your iPhone and your MacBook together, and you just seamlessly use them together and copy and paste things about.
Although now your audio is just,
I can see you clearly now as well. But
I
it's one of
actually
these things like
I have no idea what Jules just said. Oh no.
oh,
Right. I
Riverside.
wonder if we're, oh no, come on, man. Come on. Should we try and do one more question?
Yes, right. Okay, this is a good one. Could do with advice on how to structure calls when it's a small group, 12 on the program, sometimes only 5 come to the call live and they're not forthcoming and interactive. Do I just talk about what's coming up regularly amongst all clients and ways to overcome this? I think if you've got a small number of people on your program's not or on the call isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you've got to think that, like we were saying the other day, people, when you're asking them for their time, maybe are not going to attend the calls live. So I would, like I said, just talk about what's coming up regularly amongst clients and ways to overcome this. We all talk on social media all the time and do talk to the camera, and we're always on Zoom, on Mastermind, everybody's chatting. Like, nobody on Mastermind minds if you call on them to ask them something. They're like, yeah, put their camera on, put their mic on. Not everybody's happy to be on Zoom talking on the camera. So I think, yeah, I would just treat it a wee bit like kind of like a webinar. Assume they're not going to join in and be interactive. And if they do, it's a bonus. And if not, your call will still run the way you intend it to, because you assume they're not going to join in to start with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So like either have questions ready, or, and a good example of this is I know I put this on AFM. There is an example of a workshop that I did. I think it's called like the no bullshit fat loss workshop or something, where okay, there are people there and I do bring them in, I do get interactive with them, but there doesn't have to be, because there's a full presentation there anyway. No, you don't have to do like a full presentation every single week, but you could have some bullet points, right? And that's all you kind of really need. I also, and I don't know how long your calls are, but just one thing that a lot of people do is put like a pressure on themselves to make it an hour. It doesn't need to be an hour, it could be 20 minutes, it might be 45 minutes, like it, depending on what you want people to get from it and what you want to cover and how long it takes you to cover that. Don't feel that you need to like drag these things out. They don't need to be dragged out. We're pretty big on that on AFM. We've had the most incredible feedback from the accelerator. Sometimes they're 15 minutes long, sometimes they're 35 minutes long, but there's always like clear cut action points at the end. And honestly, most business owners and most people generally who value their time don't want to watch an hour long thing to try and pull out the 3 nuggets of actual useful content that you put in there. It's like, okay, give them what they need and then leave them to get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, that's what I'll do. See, with group calls, if you're doing it on Zoom, if you've got a presentation or something on the screen, you can move your little video off to the side, and then actually nobody can see if there's 3 folk on it, 10 folk, 25 people. And it takes that pressure away from there being like 4 other tabs where people have all got their camera off and just your face in the middle of it. And it gives you something else to focus on.
Yeah, I agree. It's really off-putting if you're like talking to 3 other people on Zoom who've got their camera off and you're there trying to be interactive, but you can't see them, or there's one person who's put it on, but they're busy doing something else, or they just, a lot of people, it's not anyone's fault as well, but most people look quite bored on Zoom, even if they're not. It's like you're unlikely to sit there with like a massive smiley face on. Like, same with people who are always like, oh, people have like retching, hopefully not retching, but like resting bitch face in the gym. It's like, well, yeah, you're not just gonna sit on like the leg press, but press fucking like smiling away to yourself. You look like a lunatic, right? So most people do kind of have like resting Zoom bitch face and like resting bitch face in the gym, and that's kind of somewhat normal. Um, yeah, so that's probably a good way to do it. Then you can focus on like your slides or like the visual that you want to show people and talk through things.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off.
Yeah. Okay, should we do the last one?
Yeah. Okay. Do we have to follow a lot of people in our niche at the start to get noticed? So, for example, I have 1,000 followers, but follow 3,000. And when, as people start to follow, should we start unfollowing them? Thanks.
No. I think that's an odd way. And also, like, you're not necessarily going to get anything from, if you're saying following people in your niche. So, for example, you're a coach who coaches people how to stop yo-yo dieting and finally get fat loss success, and you start following me, that's not really going to do anything for your business. Like, people aren't going to be like, oh, do you know what? Like, I don't know, Emma's full, so I'll look through her followers to see who else might be a coach. Like, that's not how things are going to work. So I don't think you're going to get much from following those people, apart from maybe learning from their content, maybe getting some inspiration from their content and seeing what they do, and if they do like a waiting list or if they're doing Black Friday, like you can kind of learn from people, but it's not going to directly help your business, if that's what she means.
I think it's maybe more about like, I thought that when I first read it, but I think it's maybe more like target audience. Should they follow? Like, I am not a fan at all of that follow unfollow method. There's a business coach who has, I mean, he's honestly followed me maybe about 6 times so far. And I'm like, no, stop it.
Is his name Dan?
Oh, I don't know. I know what his picture looks like. I'll need to look back and see. He's
Show
not
me
followed
up.
me. He's not followed me in the last few weeks. Maybe he's got bored of it.
Oh, what a shame.
But I'm like, I just don't love this whole follow on. It's not a. People know it's not a
Yeah,
great
it's sort of
strategy. I
just,
don't love it.
yeah, I think it's different if you're like, I don't know, Jules had said one of her mates might be interested in AFM, and like I go and follow them and kind of start interacting with their
Mhm.
stuff or something. That's kind of fine. Like you're like giving them the opportunity to reach out if they want to reach out, and you're like, okay, now we've got some kind of connection there if, at some point you do want to join. But I think it's a bit different just to be like, right, I want to find overweight middle-aged women who are probably yo-yo dieting. I'll just go follow people who I think might be in that demographic. Like, no. And the thing that I think is snaky as fuck is to do something like go onto my page, look who's commenting on my page, think, oh, that's my target audience because they're fucking Emma's clients, and start meshing them. And people do that. It's so bad.
Oh, actually, because that's quite a. You see that all the time on Twitter. So, see if you put on, I advise my clients to do X, and then you got all of the coaches who are in the same niche being like, yeah, I totally agree. I also tell my clients to, oh, away.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I get that sometimes on my posts. some coach will come along and like basically say the exact thing that I've already said, and then just drop in like, I work with a lot of women who struggle with PCOS. I'm like, do you know what I now do? Because I don't. So you can just hide comments now.
Mm-hmm.
So it just completely make absolutely no point in them doing it. But you can also make their profile like hidden, so anything that so they still get to waste their time commenting on your posts, but only you can see it. And I'm like, ha, 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 you've just wasted so much time, and it's actually better than like blocking people because then they still waste their time doing it.
And they wonder why nobody's replied to them because
Yeah.
nobody else can see it.
Well, probably because they're obviously like, someone's commented on your post. It's like they want to hear from you, not some other random coach who clearly has too much time on their hands to be going around commenting on other people's stuff.
I just don't love.
And do you know what? I don't mean that as in like, if you genuinely have something to add, I
Hmm.
always want to hear it, like always. But if you're just like trying to poach clients from somebody, like that's just, come on, grow up.
It's like a hack. Like, oh, go and find all the biggest coaches in your niche, and you go and comment under their posts, and then people see your name. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't build integrity and rapport with
No
people.
one's looking for coaches like
No.
yeah, two things will happen. One, no, that's not how anyone's finding their coach. And two, you will just be really disliked in the industry. And like the people that you're looking up to will start thinking you're a little scumbag. Stop doing that. When actually most people, like, I would help anybody out, like most coaches are like, yeah, I want to help the next generation of coaches. Like, yeah, I want to help you if you're just starting out. Like I built a whole business around doing that. Like I want to help people. But not when they're just being like, what, that what you're doing. Like, that's not a way to build a business.
Well, that's why,
Yeah.
see, whenever I get on my business page, see, I'm doing like a free trial or a 5-day whatever. And I'm like, tap here if you want the information. See if any coaches tap it that they want to join the free trial. I always reach out and I'm like, you're absolutely more than welcome. But if you just want to see how I do this, I'm also happy to help you. So like if you want to join because you're buzzing to do Pilates, you're welcome. But also if you want a bit of help business wise, feel free to ask. And people are often like, oh yeah. Because I think people expect you to like be funny about it.
Yeah. Oh, like I would say about at least 40% of people that ask for my free stuff are other coaches. So they're like, oh, what's the 3-to-1 method? I want to use it with my clients. Or what do you mean by traffic light system? I thought maybe I could use it with my clients. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm not going to gatekeep the information. As long as you understand it, you articulate it. As long as like if you're literally just using mine, you're not taking it as inspiration, you're just using mine, and then you credit me for it. Fine. Like, and also you have to remember that that is also my target audience. Like I sell just as much to coaches as I do to clients. So I'm more than happy to share all of that with coaches. Yeah. But it's not so like I had no issue with any of that. It's more just like the trying to poach people off your
Yeah. That's
page. Like
that's
that's
completely
quite a
different.
different thing.
That's just not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can build
Anyway,
a
I very much enjoyed that, Jules. Thank you very much for your time. And hopefully this is like the best audio ever because we will have both uploaded it from our own sides. But we will see.
flawless.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.